weren't supposed to get like this. I wasn't trying. Then we started vibing. I ain't even gonna play around. We weren't supposed to get this far. You didn't know this, but you had my focus. It wasn't long before I fell for you. I must admit you trapped me.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I got sidetracked. I apologize for that. This is supposed to be a bookshelf speaker review, not a recording session. I don't know what I be doing in here. Anyway, let's just get back on track, pretend none of this ever happened. This is an actual review video of these speakers behind me, the Fluance signature bookshelf speakers that I've had before and sold, and about 6 years, maybe 7 years or so later, now I bought them again. And why? Why did I do that? Well, I am curious. When I was younger, about 20 years old or so, I had the whole Fluance signature series, including the towers, the center channel, the bookshelf speakers, and I think they're bipole speakers. I had the whole shebang. And at the time, I wasn't as good at audio as I am now. I didn't have nearly the caliber of gear then that I do now. And so I wondered, if I buy them in today's times, how do they stand up against today's competition? These cost me $169 from Amazon, shipped straight to my door, prime shipping, took 2 days. And there are a lot of competitors now in the last 8 years that may or may not be better than these. But I think they sound absolutely incredible, if you ask me, for the price tag. Now, I'm going to go straight to one of my complaints. I'm going to get some songs ready to listen to, but I have one main complaint about this speaker that I think I had 8 years ago. And that's these two ports that are on the front of the speaker. Placement-wise, perfect. Putting ports on the front or the bottom opens up placement options. If you have to put these against the wall, it's better to have ports on the front than it is to have them on the back. But there's a lot of port chuffing that can happen with this speaker. If you pump too much bass in these things, or the volume's just simply too loud, you're going to hear port chuffing pretty easily. And you don't want to plug these ports because they don't get very low on bass anyway, which we'll talk about in a second. But you can hear port chuffing without really digging really deep. And if you get really deep in bass, you're going to hear it easily. But even around like the 50 hertz, 60 hertz range, which is close to their bottom anyway, you get a lot of air. It's a whole bunch of air. It kind of sucks a little bit, but that's where you get reminded that this is a budget speaker, but it doesn't sound like a budget speaker. I'm gonna actually throw some competition out there that I would buy these over. I would buy these speakers over the Xiaomi C91 version 2s. They're a little bit bigger. These are a little bit bigger than those, but the bass is better than this. Its overall frequency response is better than this. It's a little bit smoother and a little bit sweeter sounding. It sounds a little bit better. Not by a lot. They're similar in price tag, but I'm buying these over those Xiaomos. I'm buying the whole signature series over the whole C series from Xiaomi, 90 series, whatever it is. I'm also buying these over the Klipsch R50s, I think they are. I might need to double check myself. I'll put if it's not that, I'll put the model number. I'm also buying them over those as well, the R50Ms, the brand new Klipsch bookshelf speaker. These have a much smoother response too. The Klipsch had a very boosted mid-range, and I did not like it. I just did not like it because it doesn't have much bass either. And so it fell off a cliff so quickly. It sounded too boomy in the mid-range and it had no low end. This keeps it a little more smooth, a little more flat, so it feels like it gradually drops off in comparison to the Klipsch R50s. I think the RP50s. I'll have to put the model number up here for you guys. I can't remember exactly what it was. But I'm buying these speakers over those two. Again, similarly priced. I think these are actually the cheapest speaker out of all three. So I really like these speakers because of the performance to price ratio. The value that Fluance gives you in every single one of their speakers, nobody's doing it like that. Maybe Xiaomi, but otherwise, Fluance is one of the best budget brands out there because you get a lot more for what the price suggests. I've had a lot of Fluance speakers in my time, and they're no slouch. They are incredibly good for the price that you pay for them. They will exceed your expectations, everybody's expectations. So I am happy to have them back on my desk permanently until I decide I want something else. So we're gonna find some other songs to test with. Of course, I've had these before. I've used them as surround sound speakers as they suggest. I don't think I've ever used them previously as home theater speakers as far as my front stage or 2-channel listening. So we're doing that now, and I've done some testing outside this video. So let's listen to some other things out here and see what we think. One of the most impressive things about these speakers is the ability to give you this airy type of sound that you usually see in $400, $500, $600 bookshelf speakers. Again, these are under $200, but you get a very airy, lifted, vibrant sound out of these. And what's really nice is that they're not really big. They're about average size, or maybe even on the smaller side for bookshelf speakers. But they 100% perform a lot more grand than they are. They sound bigger than they are, which is always impressive to me when a speaker can outperform its size. Because a lot of people think you need tower speakers to have a big sound. That is not true. You need a good speaker to have a big sound. It's my personal opinion. And these have a good enough sound to them. Good enough being there are some drawbacks we'll talk about here in a second, but it has a very lifted, open, airy, free-flowing sound that's very enjoyable to listen to near field and from afar, and I really appreciate that out of these speakers. They're using a 5-inch or 5 1/4, not Kevlar, but fiberglass cone, and 2 ports there on the front, and then a 1-inch, I think it's a silk dome tweeter on the top, and then this silver ring around the tweeter is a wave guide. In the middle of the fiberglass cone is a phase plug. You don't see a lot of that. Yamaha does it, like I said, but you don't see a lot of that technical stuff in a speaker around this price point, and it does have an effect on the sound, a positive effect on the sound. So a lot of things sound really good with this speaker, voices included. So because there's not a lot of bass with this speaker, it has a more smoother mid-range than the Klipsch R50Ms, but it still has a similar issue where the mid-range is so prominent that your voices kind of get lost in there. Like for this little demo we're doing, for example, the voices, they're there, you can hear them, they come through, they do push through, but the mid-range is so accented that some instruments take the lead that shouldn't. So when you have your voices, when you have your musicians singing, and then you have instruments accompanying that voice, sometimes certain instruments can kind of come through too much because the mid-range is accented, especially with female voices. Female voices tend to be on the higher end, which sounds really good on these. Then you add it with instruments that handle the mid-range, like a kick drum or something like that, and sometimes it gets tangled up. It's expected at this price point, but I do have to note that because a lot of people will use these as 2-channel music setups, and that may deter you from using these particular speakers depending on what type of music. I'm gonna continue to play the same song and see where it goes. Yeah, so same problem. There's a lot going on in this song. You have the voices singing just a little bit, you have this little echo in the back, you have this synthesized beat, a couple piano keys being played in the background. There's a lot going on in this song, and it's heavily computerized as it is. But these speakers don't like a lot of what's the word I want to use? They don't like a lot of information all at once. They can't separate them very well. So you can't separate voices and then instruments and then whatever. It doesn't have it doesn't have the price point to separate instruments from voices very well very often. There's some songs that it does okay with, but most songs like that, you're not gonna want to buy these speakers if you're listening for music like that. These speakers do really good when it's maybe one instrument and a voice, or maybe two instruments and a voice, like a piano and a singer, or something like that. But a whole orchestra with a violin and blah 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 blah, it's too much for these speakers. So that is a downside to it. Now let's talk about the bass. Bass stays pretty smooth. There is a little bit of a bump in the mid-range. So it probably looks like, if this is the bass side, it probably looks like this, comes up to the mid-range, and kind of tapers off a little bit. There's probably a little hill in the mid-range, if I had to guess, just from listening to it, which is fine for a lot of music, and it's fine for home theater, which is what they want you to use these for. But it can cause an issue. Otherwise, it's pretty flat, rolls off pretty gradually towards the end. It's rated down to 60 hertz. And it reaches down there, maybe a little bit lower in-room response, and it kind of just falls off. The clips just fell off and took vacation. It just jumped off the cliff and just kept falling. It just kept going. These have much gradual fall offs where it doesn't sound hollow or empty. It doesn't sound like you're missing something. These speakers pretty much take charge all the way to about 55, 50 hertz or so. So pretty good. The Clips was a rear-ported speaker as well. These are front-ported, so advantage to these speakers as well, especially for near field. Since the ports are firing at you, a little bit more of that bass is heard since they're right in front of you. So that's not a bad little feature as well. We'll do one more song. I don't know what I'm going to pick. We'll just hit this one here. It's just a really enjoyable speaker. I think that's how I would rate these. They're enjoyable. Nothing special. They don't do anything great. They do a lot of things good. They're really enjoyable. I like listening to them. The way that I'm going to listen to them is on my desk, and I think they'll be really good for that. They're not too big, not too imposing. They look really good. They're Fluance, so they're quality stuff. I think these are just solid speakers. Nothing too crazy in this review about them. They're just solid speakers. I really like the finish. The gloss finish on the front, it doesn't look premium, but it does add a nice touch with the yellow, of course. That looks really good, too. And then you have vinyl wrapped around it. I think it looks good. It's a two-way binding post, not 5. And you can hang them up on a wall with a keyhole. They're not too heavy. So it's a solid speaker. I think they will ultimately shine as your surround sound speaker, your rear speakers, your side surrounds. I think they would be really good for that. If you are tight on budget and you want to get some brackets and hang them in the ceiling as some Atmos speakers or on-wall Atmos speakers, they probably would be okay with that if you can get the angle right and calibrate it correctly. They may even pose a threat in the Atmos world too. So they're solid speakers again. Competition, Yamo, Klipsch, things like that. I think Polk Audio probably has a few things in the price. I think Polk Audio beats all of those, the Klipsch, the Yamos. But these are solid. These are definitely something I would consider if I was you. The Fluance Signature Series overall is a very good series, and I hope to get those speakers back in my home theater to do a review in today's times. I think those are underrated in my personal opinion, and not enough people talked about them when they first came out. So let me know in the comment section if you're interested in getting the whole setup in here. I'll do my best to try to do that. But solid speakers, I like them. No real complaints. They sound as expected, maybe just a little bit better. They do perform a little bit better than what the price suggests. So I'll give them 5 stars out of 5. Because they do perform better than 169 should give you, in my personal opinion. Because of that, that's a 5-star. If you perform over your price point, it's 5-star. There are some complaints, but it's an inexpensive speaker at the end of the day. So if you have these speakers or heard these speakers, leave me a comment down below and tell me what you thought of these speakers in your room, your home. How were you using them? Let me know that in the comment section. Hit that like button and subscribe if you are not already. We will see you guys on the next video. Kpaceguy out. Peace.
Say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. even if the sky is falling down.